Okay, so our next speaker is Kate. She worked at IH Bydgoszcz right back at the beginning in 1992 for 2 years. And she's now in IH Buenos Aires, even, where she has worked as an ADOS, a DOS, an in-company coordinator, and she's currently a teacher and teacher trainer. Okay, and
thanks, Emma.
Take it away, Kate.
Hi. So hi, everybody. How is everyone today?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
having a good time. You?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, great introductions from Emma, and just a little bit of background to the session. When originally Sandy asked me, and she said that she was getting people to come and say what they'd learned from the school. That's how I based this, was basically to put it into perspective. International House Bydgoszcz was my very first teaching post straight from CELTA. I did the CELTA in the August, and I came to Bydgoszcz and helped set up and open the school. It was the first English language school in the town. We went.
I remember, Kate. Hello. Sorry to be for being late.
Who's there? Is that Grzegorz? Hi,
yeah,
Grzegorz.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, how are you? Yeah, do you remember?
She's telling the truth. Yes, she was the very first teacher, very first year. Okay, I will shut up now.
No, that's okay. And I think part of the success of the school, which is we went from 4 teachers, Grzegorz, in that October. We asked for 12 more by Christmas, and the following year we had 25. I mean, that just shows how popular and big and how successful it was. So what I did was, I was looking at oldies but goodies. So let's have a start of the presentation. So let me click on here. Okay. Whoops. Right, so oldies but goodies. So as I said in the abstract, are there activities or skills that you learnt in your first year of teaching that you still use regularly in your career today? Such as, does anybody know what FSW means? Or please, I want people to respond, so you can switch off microphones unless you've got background noise. But FSW, what do we referring to?
Find someone who?
Absolutely, find someone who, the classic, yes. And alibi, I don't remember, the alibis was the first dogma, no materials type. I'm stuck, what can I do for a standby lesson? I'll play alibi, you know. So those sort of classics, yes. And so the idea is that I'm going to share some of mine that I still use and still think that sometimes we're going too much into the old technology, especially now with online teaching. We rely on apps and games and things to entertain our students, when back in the day, you have to remember that Grzegorz and Marek and Tomek, they started the school, we had nothing. We didn't have resources. Yeah, we had course books, but there were no, huge resources. We had no computers. We didn't type in those days. Everything was done by hand. So I think sometimes people forget just what it was like to be a teacher back in the past and how much easier it is now. So here are my 4 personal favorites that I still, and I've divided them into skills and activities. So timetabling lessons, something I hope we do, but I know from my recent experience that not all teachers do. Taking stuff off the page and exploiting the course book. And then the 2 activities, find someone who, class survey, and the classic old information gap. All right, I had 2 more here, but I took them off last night because 30 minutes, we're never going to get through them. Okay, so timetabling. What do I mean by timetabling? Okay, so I'm just going to switch to, so here's a classic find someone who, just so you can, I'm going to send you these materials at the end. This is something, we still use as our getting to know activity on all our CELTA courses. It just works. It's really good for breaking the ice, getting to know people. So find someone who, class survey, hang on. So here we have a timetable, okay. How many of you follow a syllabus? Yes. Okay. Does it tell you exactly what to teach each day?
No.
No, it just tells you where you should be in the book, etc. Yes. Okay. Let's have a look. I'm not sure if you'll be able to do this. Hang on. Okay. Sorry, I know I'm flitting around a bit today, but let's see if I can find. Here we go. Let's do a little bit of survey. If I put this into the chat box, yeah. I can't view my whole screen now. Oh, I want to show the full, here we go, chat. Okay, so I'm sticking this into the chat box. It's a link to a survey. Are you all able to find it and click on it?
Yep, got that.
Got
Yeah,
it. Okay, so if you click on there, okay, you should get this survey come up on the screen. Yes? If you've got it, can you complete the survey? There are just 6 questions. Okay, so the first question is, do you follow a specific course book and or a school split when planning your lessons? And you just press next. Okay, and in a moment we'll be able to see, hopefully, I haven't tried this before, we'll hopefully see the results. Okay, has everybody got it? Yeah, you got it, Emma? If Emma's got it, I'm okay. Emma's nodding, keeping me online. Okay. Great. I'll fill it in as well as we go. So. Okay. Has everybody managed to fill in the actual survey? Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll try and have a look at those later. But timetabling. So as I show in the materials here, okay, this is a syllabus that we have for our Advanced Gold. And basically a lot of our syllabus is someone has just sat and typed the contents page from the opening of the book, right? So this is basically what it is here. And on this particular level, this is quite helpful because it does actually say week by week, the 4 lessons during the month, what we should be doing. But here in yellow is where I've made notes because I've already seen that I want to, sorry, my cat's now pestering me. I want to add something. I might want to change the order. Why? Why do you think I would plan in advance? I mean, the lesson isn't prepared here. This is just what I want to do on that day. Why would I do that in advance? And why? How does that help? Emma? Yeah, go on, anyone. Honestly,
Yeah.
this is just a workshop. Just shout out. Imagine we're in class and you're my students.
Well, I don't always do it, but I find that when I do, things flow better. And if there are certain aims, tasks I want to do that could benefit from preparation, not just in one lesson, but in lessons leading up to it, that makes it a whole lot easier than just planning class by class.
Absolutely. This was something the Director of Studies showed us in my first year at Bydgoszcz, so coming straight out of a CELTA, when all you've done is concentrate on one lesson a week or two lessons a week. It was, yeah, revealing, really revealing and helpful. And it meant in those days, I don't know what it's like in Bydgoszcz now, but we used to teach Monday, Tuesday, had Wednesday free, and then Thursday, Friday. And so I was actually sort of timetabling for the whole week on the Sunday, and then planning the first 2 lessons and then planning the other 2 lessons on the Wednesday. But I spent an awful lot of time in planning in my first year, too much. I didn't have a good life-work balance. So timetabling really helped. And let's look at some of the actual benefits of timetabling that I believe. One is to get students forming and answering different questions, to build class dynamics and a good working environment by, oh, that's not the right one. Hang on a minute, where have we gone? Sorry, this was the answers for find someone who, of course. Why do we do find someone who and class surveys? Sorry, so let's go back. To get students forming and asking questions, which is one of the worst and most difficult things to do in English, question formation. So those find someone who, those surveys are so valuable, and I still use them. I still do find someone who, as I said, with CELTA, I still do find surveys with students even now. Okay, they're great for building class dynamics and learning more about each other. I think a good working environment comes from students who know each other really well and feel comfortable with each other, and you have to keep doing that throughout the whole year. It's no just doing the getting to know you activities at the beginning of the class. And to give a chance to student to mingle and talk with all classmates and get them moving around. Now that's okay in a face-to-face. Can we find someone who in class surveys online? What have I just showed you? Okay, so we can do them online with a survey. Okay, like I just used an app, but again, you're not mingling. How do we mingle in an online class? How do we get students moving around, and why do we want to get students moving around?
On Zoom, you could use the breakout room function where they can choose which breakout room they're going to go to.
Exactly. So how could you get them to do a class survey using the breakout room?
Well, when you open those breakout rooms, you have an option to leave them open so they can jump in between them. Therefore, you can make it an exact system where they have to go, okay, you're going to have to jump between at least 3 of the rooms. I want you to go to at least 3 different rooms and talk to different people. That's what I do, rather than just going, oh, just go around, because the amount of times I'll have one who just sits in one room and waits for everyone else.
Yeah, go, oh, I sometimes have half the class who are, or I've allocated a room to them and said, right, you're static and the rest you jump around. And I might do that for half the survey, then swap them over. But yes, mingling is possible online, and I think it's really important. And students, particularly my younger adolescents, love technology. So anything that gets them moving in the class rather than just sat as I present my lesson on a PowerPoint. That's something I think we need to be aware of. So it has benefits online. Okay, so we're going to skip this because I realize time's rushing on, but I will send you the conclusions to that survey about what you do in the classroom at the moment. Okay. All right, so timetabling. Now I'm at the right place. So what are the benefits of timetabling? Okay. Less stressful and easier to plan lessons. As Emma said, if you've already made the decision about what you're teaching, it's much easier then on the day to plan what you want. Yeah. Material from the course book can be reordered and delivered in a more logical or varied order, because course books are very predictable. I mean, they just deliver unit by unit, almost in exactly the same format. First is the speaking, then there's a reading, then there's a listening, and maybe the topics will be better pushed together in a different way. Okay. And it gives you time to react to material and decide what, if anything, needs adapting or supplementing. How many times do we come to a lesson and we say, oh, if only I'd thought about that before, I had a great activity that would have worked, but I don't have time now, I'm teaching in half an hour. So I think spending that time timetabling and thinking for the unit or the month as a whole really does benefit, and ends up being a much more homogeneous a series of lessons, rather than this, I'm just reacting on the day, I've got to teach in half an hour, I'm going to plan it now. Okay, so the course book is paper-based. We're now teaching online, but even when we were in face-to-face, one thing I learned was, again, how to take stuff off the page and exploit the course book. As I said, we didn't have lots of resources back in the day. And so we had to exploit the course book. And I think what we often try and do is the course books also nowadays have far too much stuff. You can never get through everything in a course book in a month of a normal regular classes. So what do you leave in? What do you take out? And I think sitting down and timetabling helps that. It makes you think, well, this would go good together. That would make one whole lesson. That would make another lesson. I might need to find something to supplement that lesson. So then taking off the page and making it more dynamic. So what does that mean? Okay, so sorry, while I'm just flicking back to my materials. So one of the first things I saw in Bydgoszcz was this. Anybody recognize this? Harry's Trip. I never know who it was. I wish I knew. It was 1992. Elementary. We were teaching lots of beginners and elementaries, obviously, in those days in Poland, English. And this was something that had been taken from the course book, which was clearly to practice past tense irregular verbs, and also to then mingle. Yeah, so the classic information gap. Okay, so I've seen this in various forms since, with Harry's name changed to Dan's or Lisa's or whatever it is. Okay, so what you have to do first of all is the students fill in gap A, yeah, by turning the infinitive verbs into the past tense. The pictures give them a clear idea of what we're looking for here. But then it was created into a mingle. So how did they take even this off the page? How do you make this into a mingle information gap task? Anybody got any ideas?
You could have some students only doing the A gap and the others only doing the B, and then they have to like talk to each other to fill in the rest of the sentence, maybe. Yep,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could do that. What they actually did, or we were taught to, we had the answers to the B gaps, and so each of the students were given an answer. So it would say Malbec, or it would say fish and chips. And so they had to work out first where their answer went. They wrote it in on their sheet. And you made sure that, I mean, here we've got, what, 10 students. So if you had 20, you would give 2 of them the same answer. And then they had to get up and mingle. But before that, we had to practice something, because what are they going to have to do to find out the information that's missing?
Question forms.
Question forms. So you'd make sure they had the right past tense question, and then they would stand up and walk around. And of course, they know that somebody there has the right answer. Yeah, because they've been given it and they've written it in, you've monitored, you've checked, whatever. So they would help each other. They would work as a class. They'd know somebody must have a picture of a thing about food. Somebody must have something about drink. And I mean, a lot of time it was done in Polish because they were beginners or they were elementaries. But the idea is they worked and it built dynamics, and then it was taking it off the page. And of course, yes, it did extend it. It did mean that it came from a 5-minute individual make past tense, irregular and question forms to a group activity, but it was much more communicative as a result. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. Yeah. So okay, how do we do it now? How do we do these information gaps for higher levels? Is it still beneficial? So of course, at the moment, my first year that I've actually got my own classes, it's been years since I had my own classes, but I'm teaching Proficiency 1 and Advanced 1. This is Advanced 1 taken from Advanced Gold Book. What type of exercise do I have here? Anybody recognize it?
Jigsaw? Is it reading part?
Yeah, it doesn't matter about which
part it is.
It's the difficult
the
one.
Paragraphs
It's
need to go in the right
put
spaces.
the paragraphs into the right box.
Yeah,
good.
The one they hate.
And they find this incredibly difficult. And it is. I mean, it is incredibly difficult. It's one of the most difficult readings out of all the Cambridge exams, the put back the missing information. And some of them just don't understand how to go about it. So I always present this as almost like an information gap class mingling activity. Okay. So I would, in my face-to-face classes, I would cut up or have the reading blown up on the whiteboard, and I would do what? What does each student get to mingle with? They get good, one of these paragraphs. Yeah. So they get one of the paragraphs, and they have to go up and decide with Blue Tap where they're going to stick their paragraph in. And they can stick it in, and then the other students can say, oh no, but I put my paragraph there. So then they're all crowded round arguing, yeah, but look. And of course, we've obviously spoken about, and then I come in and I do it as, when I've got a small group, I say, well, okay, here are, you know, like they've shown here, you've got the bolded words to show where they link in the text, but then they argue about it themselves, and they get a much, it's really good for visual learners, they get a much better idea of how to go about the task. So online, is it easier or more difficult? Well, these are the paragraphs here. So what do you think I do with these online? Here, and this is what they can see. So there's the reading. Now I've got, and these are the gaps where they have to put their paragraphs. Okay, so they could do that individually. Okay, and the beauty of doing it online is they can physically move the paragraphs around, and they can swap it around and put it in a different place and then read it. Does it make sense? So for it makes that reading so much more visual, because it's very hard for them to see in their head that that paragraph fits. When they visually put it there, they go, oh no, but that doesn't make sense now. I'll put it here. Obviously, I have taken out the extra paragraph because otherwise, and then we talk about the extra paragraph. So how about making this into more of an information gap dynamic? How could we do that? Any ideas? Okay, so I give them the paragraph individually in the chat box by private message. So they've all got one paragraph, they can't see the others. They decide where they think their paragraph goes, and then they go onto the Google Doc and place it. And of course, you've got them saying, no, but I want to put mine there. Well, why should I put your, and they do exactly the same as they did face-to-face, but they're doing it online, all right, without me. I'm silent, I'm watching, I butt in if I need to, and they put it together. Again, this whole idea of working together to work things out, it just helps. And for things like that have a visual element, I find it really, really helps. Okay, all right. You can ask me questions about any of the actual, how do I say, the logistics of doing it in a moment, but let's move on quickly. Okay, so what was the next one? Okay. what I'd like you to do now is I'm going to show you some material from my Advanced 1 Gold course book. Anybody else using this course book at the moment? Okay, I just want you to think about how you might combine material from various different pages, how you could take something off the page, how you could exploit the course book, and the reasons, making it more motivating, building class dynamics, and making it more real life. And then I'll tell you what I've actually planned. I haven't quite finished the whole unit yet, but I'll tell you what I've done. So down here, so we have this little bit of speaking from the first page. This was a grammar lesson, which is, just notice the topic. You'll see what the topic, it says art of conversation for the unit, but see the topics across the top. This is clearly some sort of survey they have to do. Personality types are listening. And then down here we had the reading that they were looking at before, which is all about being addicted to mobile phones and losing the art of conversation. And then this was a proposal for the end of the unit, which is about, actually, this one is about improve your use of email. But the one they have to do is to talk about a proposal to help students who have problems giving presentations. And my students are aged in 13 to 17 is their age group. Okay, so I'll leave it this bit here. Okay, just have a little look and then we'll have to do this. I was going to do breakout rooms, there's no time for that now. What sort of things do you think you could bring together? What sort of things could you take off the page? Any ideas? I know we haven't got much time. I haven't got time to.
For something like this personality type thing, it could be cool to do like a real life quiz online with your students, especially if they're C1 level, they can for sure handle that language.
Absolutely, Ruth. And that's exactly what I based it around. I saw that. It's a very small part. It's an introduction actually to the listening, which is about personality types. But the whole unit is mainly talking about technology, particularly about social media. As you say, here it's about being addicted to nocturnal smartphone use. Here it's about this idea that you've got to pick up your phone as soon as you hear a message come through. And so what I did was I combined these questions into this survey. So it's not just a survey about are you introvert, it's a survey about your use of mobile phones and whether you've become more introvert with social messaging and social pages and COVID, of course, now, this idea that we're not socializing so much. And so I made it more real life. We did these tasks as per the course book as such, but I've based it looking towards an aim because I timetabled the aim of this unit to be, rather than talking about students giving presentations, which my students are just too young, but I know they'd be really interested and they have a lot to say about their use of mobile phones. Some of them have said to me, I hate it when somebody does not respond to me as soon as I send them a text message. And so basically we created a class survey, which they did last class. Next class, they will be analysing, and I'm going to be introducing some language like most of us, a few of us, quite a few of us, 100% of us do. They're going to analyse the results of that survey, and then they're going to use that to make a proposal. So I'm going to teach them how to make a proposal. I'll use the one from the book as a model, but the proposal is, what can we do to help ourselves become less introvert, if some of them are, or how to stop being addicted to our phones. Maybe we should have a week of not allowed to use it. Maybe you're not allowed to have it beside your bed. So the idea is I want them to actually put it together. And the idea is that it's a much more communicative thing. I'm teaching the course book. I'm teaching all the stuff I need to do there, but I'm adapting it to suit my students, which makes it much more dynamic. I'm still building the dynamics. We're only in our second month of teaching because we've just started our academic year. So this obviously makes more sense. It's the beginning of the book. But this idea of making the whole thing more real life, this is something I learned back in my day in Poland, this idea of, you know, exploiting what you've got and using those skills. And I think this is something I feel with online teaching, certainly, but also with all the different advances in teaching that we've lost. So back to basics, oldies but goodies. So very quickly, I know I'm almost out of time. What are some of your oldies but goodies? Does anyone want to chat them in the chat box so we can have a look? Okay, machine guns. I love some of these. Okay. True, false for getting to know machine guns, read by numbers, flashcard games. Yeah. Taboo. Cuddling to throw, toy throwing. Okay. All right. So my first thought is, and has anyone got back to the board? My other one, which I did have, was the old vocabulary back to the board. You know, you write the word on the board. Students just love it. Are you doing it in your online classes? Yeah. Okay. Are you doing all of these favorites in your online classes? Any no's?
Maybe the cuddly toy throwing game hasn't come out
Yeah.
in my online
Okay.
class.
Okay. But I mean, what's the point of the cuddly toy throwing game?
Glenn.
Yeah. Is that for getting to know names or? But either way, cuddly toys. Yeah, kids have their favorite toy. Just getting them to do a show and tell. Get them. I mean, we did the other day. We did pets because I mean, my cats, as you know, bothered me this morning. So we did a whole pet session, and we talked about the people buying dogs and cats in lockdown, and also rescuing animals. And so we all had to go and somewhere. They all went away and tried to find their pet and brought it back, and we had a whole thing about showing our pets and, you know, asking their names and things. It was really natural, warmer, communicative language going on. So I think there were things that we could do in the face-to-face classroom that we forget that we can still do in the online classroom. Okay. So I'm sort of looking at the time. Questions. I know that was rather rushed and a bit chaotic at the beginning, but questions about going back to basics and things. What does everybody's view generally? Anybody? You're all too quiet. Unmute yourselves.
What was the question? Sorry.
What do you think? Are there still oldies and goodies that you use? Do you agree with me that sometimes we're into using Kahoot, for example, which I do use and I love, but it can take up an awful lot more time than you anticipated. And also, is it just there because you want to throw in a bit of fun? Does it have an educational purpose in terms of what you're doing in your unit for that? Yeah, and if it does, then fine. But sometimes I think we just use the apps as a sort of filler warmer without perhaps thinking in the bigger picture about what we could actually get out of it.
I think that happens sometimes, and it's something that I personally have had to catch myself on. For example, Kahoot or Quizlet such was used for vocabulary, trying to reintroduce vocabulary so you can practice it more and maybe do a sentence completion or a gap fill text with said vocabulary. But actually, it's very easy just to do vocab, and especially if they're competent to use Kahoot at this age, then you can just have like a box on a slide or a Google document, a nice little box with some of the words in them, and then you just describe a word to them, or you can draw the word. It's much easier. Less hassle, less waiting time. That's the worst part, the waiting time.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Could I go slightly off topic and ask how you're dealing with this issue on CELTA courses? Because I know it's something we've discussed in the past, but how are you dealing with this? You know, the need to show trainees activities that they'll be able to use in the face-to-face classroom when they eventually managed to go and teach in a face.
Well, I mean, we on our hot feedback sheet, the last question always says, if you were teaching this in a face-to-face classroom, what would you differently? What would you need to think about? What questions should you ask to like your tutor? So we always do that at the end of all the feedback sessions. What would this have looked like in face-to-face?
We started doing that,
Yeah. And the other thing is, you know, as I've just shown you, lots of the stuff we do in the face-to-face is possible to do online. So this idea of showing them that it's just a question of learning the technology, learning what you can do with breakout rooms. I mean, I'm still learning Zoom. I only learned how to use Zoom, as we all did probably, in March of last year when we were struck into the lockdown. So, and I'm doing things in a very roundabout way. I think, Alex, was it you that mentioned opening the thing so they can jump for the class survey? I've been doing it by making them co-hosts so that the co-host can jump. I don't know if there's an easier way than that, and there probably is. So, you know, sometimes we're still going the long way around because we haven't learned the short way, but yeah. And also, Emma, we have an actual input session on face-to-face classroom that we do live on Zoom. So we actually looks at, you know, seating, discipline, monitoring, that sort of thing, how that might be different in a face-to-face classroom.
Okay, thanks.
If you want, I'll share our session. It's very simple.
Please, I think I might add that.
All right. Yeah, no trouble. We'll get in touch and I'll share it.
Thank you.